I'm Thomas Westbrook, and I used to be an evangelical Christian missionary, youth pastor, and worship leader, but now I'm one of the most outspoken atheists in the world. A few days ago, I released a video showcasing the absolute insane evangelical reaction to Trump's defeat in the 2020 presidential election.
The Associated Press said that Joe Biden is president. Ha!
The failed prophecies.
I want to say without question, Trump is going to win the election.
The absurd prayers.
Lord, if it be your will and if it be necessary, another election, another voting day.
The speaking in tongues.
Hamanda aka ata raka teda baka sanda ata ambo osa tata rite eke banda ata rike didi ashata.
And the belief in angels.
The angel of the Lord is going to go forth for America.
I would be lying if I said I didn't used to believe every single bit of that. I used to be just like them. When I saw the video of Paula White yelling,
Strike and 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 strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God.
I realized that most non-believers and even casual Christians may have absolutely no idea what the hell she's talking about. But to me, it instantly brought flashbacks from my junior high years involving arrows, tears, and naked Turkish women. To explain, let's rewind to a time in my life that nobody cares to revisit. Junior high. It's the early 2000s, and I've been living as a missionary kid in the Muslim world for roughly a decade. Every 4 years, my parents' missionary organization would have a massive regional conference where missionaries from all over Central Asia would gather in one country for a week of prayer, worship, sermons, updates, and mutual encouragement. That year, the conference was held in a hotel just outside of Istanbul, Turkey. Now, to say that my family was religious would be like calling the Pacific Ocean slightly damp. They were religious. Ever since I learned to read, my weeks consisted of morning quiet times, studying the Bible at 7 a.m., followed by family devotions and Bible study 5 times a week, church every Sunday, weekly youth group, monthly missionary prayer meeting potlucks, and yearly local missions conferences. Everything revolved around the Bible, and my family took it very, very seriously. Almost all of my childhood education was homeschool, and almost every textbook was a Christian publication pushing biblical literalism, denying evolution, and teaching that the earth was roughly 6,000 years old, miracles were real, and Jesus would be returning soon. I'm in my 30s now, and I'm still discovering just how much misinformation I was taught. So when you see prophecy, speaking in tongues, belief in angels and demons, and faith healing, and think it's absolutely nutter butters, I just see my childhood. In fact, the only reason my family didn't go full snake handler isn't because, holy crap, these people are nuts, of course we're not going to take a book that tells us to do that stuff seriously. No, it was because there's another verse in the Bible that says, do not test the Lord your God. But back to Turkey. Throughout the conference, I had a fair amount of freedom and would wander around the massive hotel, go swimming, and even snuck onto the roof of the 14-story building with one of my friends from Kyrgyzstan to toss paper airplanes off of it. As a young teen, I was required to attend several of the worship sessions, but not all of them since there were youth programs as well. During my free time, I found myself back in the hotel room alone, flipping through the TV. At least back then, Turkish TV was way less censored than in the US. Or perhaps it was a European channel. All I know is that I stumbled across a show with a naked woman sitting on a horse with her jiggly puffs hanging out for the world to see. To say that my sex education was repressive would be a huge understatement. I was told the bare minimum about the birds and the bees, and then told never to do it, look at it, or even think about it until marriage. Nothing about safe sex, testing, contraception, or consent. It wasn't just extramarital sex that was sinful. Even lustful thoughts were a betrayal of God and brought unrelenting guilt. So Horse Lady may as well have been Satan himself. Me and the Christians around me were always encouraged to share our testimonies, including confession of the sins that we struggled with and stories of God's deliverance. And I'd heard quite a few guys tell tales of how after accepting God into their lives, they never had lustful thoughts ever again, like a grueling never-ending no-fap November. We all knew they were lying. But because guilt and redemption is such a constant recurring theme in the life of a Christian, the Bible instilled shame and guilt in all of us for basic ubiquitous human thoughts, and then promised to alleviate the shame it saddled us with if we begged Christ for forgiveness and accepted his mercy, sort of like offering the antidote to someone after you poison them. How gracious. The very next worship session, I found myself sitting in the front row as the worship team read from 2 Kings 13, telling the story of how Jehoash, king of Israel, begged the prophet Elisha for military victory against the Arameans. Elisha has the king take an arrow and strike the ground with it, which he does 3 times. And Elisha's like, no, you should have done it 5 or 6 times, since now you'll only have 3 victories against the Arameans. Which is kind of a WTF story, since Elisha didn't specify what arrow pounding the ground would accomplish. But the worship team that day in Turkey had a bunch of arrows at the front of the room, and they told us that if we came forward in prayer and struck the ground with arrows, we'd see personal supernatural victories in our lives. The worship music got super emotional, and I found myself filled with guilt over my terribly sinful thoughts about horse ladies' watermelons. I literally thought that I was a terrible sinner, when in actuality, I was a pretty good kid. Moments later, I was at the front of the service, arrow in hand with a few dozen other missionaries around me, smashing the ground like I was Minecrafting my way to America. And I think I even broke the arrow. The whole time, I'm sobbing my eyes out, praying desperately for Jesus to save me, fill me with the Holy Spirit, and give me victory over sin. And we definitely got some raised eyebrows from the Muslim hotel staff, but I didn't care. I sincerely believed in Jesus and felt relieved after praying for forgiveness. Briefly, before starting the whole messed up cycle all over again shortly after. And while I'm able to laugh about the insanity of this type of stuff now, I was straight up in tears, sobbing, begging God for mercy and forgiveness, and asking him for victory over puberty. So now when I see evangelicals saying things like,
strike and 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 strike until you have victory.
while it does look crazy on the outside, I know what's going on in their head, what they're feeling, why they're doing it. Sure, some of the wealthy prosperity doctrine televangelists are straight up con artists, and even most Christians will agree with me on that. But the average person in the pews is just a hurting person, saddled with guilt by their religion, searching for relief from that guilt in their religion, because their religious leaders have told them that they're broken and only their God can offer them relief from that utterly depressing misdiagnosis. Because I've been there on that side of the religious aisle, I can empathize and relate. And I want to help others break free, because if I can be de-radicalized, anyone can be. Which, by the way, if you're curious how I went from being religious to being a secular activist, I've done entire videos about my journey that I will link to below. But since I started sharing my story and speaking out about 4 years ago, I've managed to reach millions of people with over 150 videos. I've attended and spoke at conferences, rallies, and protests around the world, appeared on countless other shows, blogs, and podcasts, organized online groups, provided resources to atheists who feel alone, and helped bring the atheist YouTube community together with a rapidly growing yearly conference. There is a massive online community of secular voices speaking out, and in the last few years, we've seen the largest decline in religious affiliation in US history. It's been an incredibly difficult journey. Since I started Holy Koolaid, it definitely hasn't been easy. I quit a really well-paying IT job and started doing this full time. And for a while, I was sleeping in my car to make ends meet and converted my car into a portable studio. There was more than one occasion where my credit cards had been maxed out on Holy Koolaid stuff. I couldn't get a loan, and I came within $50 of going bankrupt. And every single time, you guys came through. Every single time. It's Thanksgiving evening here as I'm recording this, and I just wanted to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Literally, if you've given more than $50 over the last 4 years, you single-handedly kept this show alive. If you shared this show and you helped it grow, you helped keep it alive. If you reached out to me and encouraged me, if you shared your story or told me how it helped you and encouraged me to keep going, you helped keep this show alive. This is crazy because I was tearing up when I was writing this script, and I didn't think I would start getting emotional reading it. At least I thought I would keep it together, but like just thinking back about everything that we've been through to get to this point and how much I owe each and every one of you. Like, I get emotional. Like, thank you. It feels weird saying it just to a camera, but thank you. Genuinely, thank you. Now, this month we saw a record surge in views and subscribers, and I was finally able to hire an assistant editor. But I want to do more. I want to improve the quality of the show and take it from a bedroom operation on a camcorder to a professional studio broadcast with industry quality gear and a full production team. But I realize that it's probably going to take a lot of baby steps. This show is yours. It can be as big or small as you make it. If you believe in me and what I'm doing and the direction I've taken things, and you want to help the show grow, then there's two big ways that you can help. I'm posting an Amazon wishlist below with gear that I could use to upgrade my studio and improve my workflow. And since this weekend is Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I think there will probably be some good sales going on. So that would be a huge help. And I'm also posting links to my Patreon and PayPal where you can support Holy Kool-Aid directly with a per video pledge or a one-time donation. I genuinely can't tell you how grateful I am for your continued support. And if you can't make a pledge or don't want to, that's fine. My videos will always be free. I'll be back next week with another video, and we'll be posting more episodes of Nothing Fails Like Bible History very soon, as well as more videos exposing psychics and explaining the paranormal with science. So stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed for that. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, and as always, dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.